I don't have a ton of experience working with any kind of acrylic markers, but I have been having such a good time with opaque medium lately, especially like gouache has been so nice to work with lately. So when Arrtx offered to send me these acrylic markers, I was actually super excited to give these a shot. I've only tried a couple of brands of acrylic markers in the past, and I've always wanted to expand the actual collection I have of what I have. They tend to be a little bit expensive, and I don't know if it's a medium I really want to invest a ton of money into. So I was really excited to try these two sets. Arrtx has two different lines of acrylic markers. They're both considered paint pens. I know they're very different. I don't know what structurally makes a paint pen and like how these ones, I don't know. The ones I'm showing right now, these metallic ones, are very strange to me. They have them in regular colors as well. They're still considered paint pens, but you don't have to shake them. You don't have to like pump them like you do for other popular brands of paint markers. These ones, however, the simptap markers are like that, where you shake them to activate them and like mix the ink so it's not mixed, I guess. And you have to like pump them. These are a brush nib though, which is super exciting because any other paint pen I have seen, any other acrylic marker I've seen has always been a bullet nib, or I think I've seen chisel. Have I seen chisel nibs? I don't know. I feel like it's normally a bullet nib. I don't know if I've ever seen any brush nib ones before though. So I was really excited to swatch all of these, which apologies in advance because this is probably the least aesthetic and least satisfying swatching session you'll ever see. The metallic ones weren't too bad, but I did start a good like 3/4 of an inch away from the top of the page. Couldn't tell you why I did that. Really dissatisfied that I did that. But especially when it came to actually swatching the other markers, I started activating them, which I always shake the entire box. It looks silly. It feels silly, but instead of shaking individual markers, just shake the whole box. It saves you so much time. The first one I swatched, I ended up pumping out too much ink at first because these ones have like the pump for the ink on the back end of the pen. It's actually very cool to visually see it when you're activating them for the first time because the ink like fills up the reservoir at the front of the tip very quickly. It looks really nice. But in swatching them, I accidentally dropped a bit of ink on the page in like a random spot on the page, and I figured that would be where I swatched that specific pen. I swatched the others around them. I don't know. My handwriting was sloppy. It just didn't feel good. So it was a very dissatisfactory swatch sheet, in my opinion. Not the worst. She's also not the best though. As far as actually swatching out these pens, it was very, very soon into it that I realized that the colors of the caps of the pens really don't match the actual ink in the pen. Some are definitely better than others, but most of them were quite far off from what the actual ink looks like, which I'm really not a fan of. I give more leniency with that when it comes to alcohol markers, but especially for paint pens, I would much prefer if the color on the cap like accurately matched the actual pen. So that is a complaint I have about these markers. That being said, that is the only complaint I have about these markers. I was so impressed with these. I've tried another brand of acrylic markers before, and while I did like them, I noticed that the actual ink inside wasn't super opaque in one just like swipe over. It was something that you kind of had to layer to build colors, and I'm not the biggest fan of having to layer a bunch of layers for what is supposed to be an opaque medium. These ones really surprised me in that sense. I was very impressed with how well they laid down. You really didn't need to go back in for more coats. Even for lighter colors, they did a really good job laying down over the darker colors that I would already lay them down on. I think the only one that had an exception was the light beige color, the like little light pastel tanny color. That was the only one that I felt like it didn't really lay down super opaque on top of other colors. You could combat this by doing a couple layers after it dried. Really, it would only take about 2 layers, so that's not like the biggest deal in the world. But the other ones really impressed me by how opaque they were. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like the fact that these markers had a brush nib on them either, because I've never used paint pens with a brush nib. I've only used ones with a bullet nib, but I thought it was actually so fun because of the different line weights you can get and the different textures you can get with these pens. I had so much fun playing with them. I wish I found a use for the metallic ones more. In my own personal art, I really don't include metallics for anything other than some just like details here and there. For very, very small portions of the piece, I might use metallics, which is definitely what I did with these metallic markers. And personally, That's just my preference because I feel like metallics can go from being like a nice accent of something with a different texture to it to looking like children's art really fast, in my opinion. And that's just, like I said, that's just my preference. I don't know. I just feel like too many metallics in one piece kind of looks like a kid went crazy with metallic markers. Those are the vibes. Those are the vibes it's giving me. But I had so much fun playing with these markers. I had so much fun doing the spread. The colors that come in the 24-pack set of the simptap markers are absolutely beautiful. They're so saturated. It definitely leans more towards cooler tones as opposed to warmer tones, which it's not my preference necessarily. It's still a fairly balanced set. They just definitely had a lot more like blues, purples, greens as opposed to just having one red, for example. The pinks that they had in the set, I wasn't really a fan of. I wish there was like a lighter pink. But again, that's just personal preference. I love these markers though, specifically the simptap ones, so I'm really hoping that Arrtx comes out with more color selection in the future. I believe the simptap markers are pretty new to Arrtx. I think they only came out recently, so I'm sure they're going to expand their selection of markers, and honestly, if I don't get sent them, I will definitely be purchasing them because they're really inexpensive for paint pens. I've wanted to try, specifically Molotovs, I've really wanted to try because they have a really gorgeous color selection, but I want to say the markers run between like $3 to $5 per marker, and it's so expensive to build like a good color selection, especially for an opaque medium where you can't really mix colors like you could with watercolors or gouache. You're stuck with the color that is coming out of the pen. So these ones are a much more budget-friendly option. They are so much more affordable than other brands out there, and they perform honestly really comparatively. I've used Poscas in the past. I don't have a huge selection of Poscas, but I've used Poscas in the past, and I think these compare extremely well to them. I think they hold up super, super well. As far as the actual art for this video goes, I really didn't have a plan. I just kind of wanted to draw whatever came to mind, and for me especially, that's been non-people art. I've been really burnt out with character art lately, so I've been having a blast drawing Digimon and Pokemon, and just like stuff that's not really character based. I realized kind of recently, I remember sitting down to draw on my iPad and I was thinking that I wanted to do like some fun dessert themed Pokemon illustrations, and I wanted to do like obscure Pokemon that I'm personally a fan of, and I just remember sitting there thinking, no, like I have to do things that are more easy to market as like prints, stickers, etc. I can't just do fun little doodles on my iPad. I can't just do fun little doodles on my iPad. And I kind of had the realization that I don't know how long it's been happening, but with the art I make, I've been much more focused on making stuff that I can turn into something I can sell, whether that be prints, stickers, keychains, etc., just something I can sell. And the realization of that was so startling to me because it's like, I didn't even realize I was subconsciously in this mindset of making sure the art I produced was to a certain standard. It was of a subject matter that would be appealing to other people. I was really just like making art for other people without even realizing it, and without it directly even being for other people. It was just the potential of it being for other people. And it was just to the point where it was like so many little things I'd want to draw, I just wouldn't do it. And I didn't realize I was doing it until this happened. And it was just like, how long has my brain been working like this? And it felt really bad. Like, I'm really grateful I realized that it was happening, and I've been focusing more on the art that I want to make and drawing whatever subject matter I want to make, even if it's something that like I won't post on social media, even if it's something that no one else wants to see. I can just do it for myself. And especially having gone through my sketchbooks recently from dating back to when I was in middle school, which is something I like doing, just like actually looking through my sketchbooks, even though it's tremendously embarrassing in certain aspects, because especially the art I made in like 8th grade to 10th grade is so edgy. It is so embarrassing. I was really going through it with my mental health. I feel like that's when the mental illness really hit. Specifically in 8th grade is when my personal mental illness really, gripped me. And man, the art I put out in that time, even now when I'm like feeling bad, or if I'm having a depressive episode or whatever it may be, I don't really make vent art anymore. And I don't know, I think I got all of it out of my system when I was like a teenager, y'all, because, oh, it's so embarrassing. Also, like, so much of it, okay, this is off track, but like, so much of my vent art is on the internet because I posted my art to DeviantArt when I was a child, and that's just like still on the internet, and it's so embarrassing and it's so cringy, it's so bad. But I do like looking at my old art. That was kind of the main thing I was trying to get to here. I like looking at my old art. I find it really inspirational. I find that sometimes when I look through my old art, I'm almost jealous of how free I was. I was cringe, but I was free. I was drawing what I wanted to do. I was drawing things that I had no business drawing, in the sense of like, I might have thought of a pose or wanted to draw a certain pose, didn't know how anything worked, didn't know how anatomy worked, but I sure gave it my best shot. And even though that might not necessarily be the best way to like teach yourself, because the best way to teach yourself is using references, I was just so free. I had so much fun. I drew whatever I wanted to, even if like I didn't know what I was doing. Versus now, I feel like if I think of a certain pose or I think of something I want to draw, I almost feel like the need for references is such a crutch. And I think that just stems from having a much higher expectation for my output of art, of expecting it to be anatomically correct, because it would be kind of embarrassing if I drew something and it just simply did not make sense. Which, I mean that in a personal sense of just kind of how my brain works. Because at the end of the day, art is fun, and as long as you're having a good time doing it, it doesn't matter if what you're drawing makes sense. It doesn't have to be anatomically correct. Just like have a good time. But I just look at those and I feel like making art used to be so much simpler and it used to be so much easier in my brain. And now there's just so many things that get in between the concept of I want to draw to actually putting down something on paper, which the whole concept is something that I've definitely noticed as I've gotten older and has been a lot more in my face in the past year than it has before, of just how easy things used to be in every aspect of life. But as I've gotten older, there's just a lot more thought put into things, there's a lot more insecurity brought out in things, there's a lot more worry brought out in things, with not just art, literally everything, where when you're younger you don't really think about what you're doing and therefore you're able to do so much more, versus as an adult, as I'm getting older, in every aspect of life, in relationships, in art, in doing things. It's just like there's so many more hesitations behind every action because you've done that thing so many times before and you know if things turn out bad, they can turn out bad. And there's so much hesitation. I don't know if that makes sense at all. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but something I've just noticed in my life and presumably in everyone's life as you get older, things just get more difficult to do. They just get more difficult. You can't really be as cringe and free. I wish I could. I wish I could be, well, okay, that's not true actually. I don't want to be that cringe and free anymore. I would love to be that level of free. I don't want to be that level of cringe. I guess I just want to be more free in my art and just do things that I want to do. And I've put a lot of pressure on myself because I haven't been posting to social media frequently at all in the past like year and a half now, almost 2 years. And as someone who wants to be able to do this full time, that is something that is obviously not coinciding with what I want versus what I'm actually doing. And it's just difficult because it's like, for my shop, for Patreon, for YouTube, for my Instagram, all of the growth I was having, which for a while I was having really exceptional growth in every aspect. I was frequently posting videos to YouTube, which of course led to more views, which led to more subscribers, all that stuff. And in doing so, I was also very active on my shop. And because I was also very active on YouTube, my shop was doing better, YouTube is doing better, etc., etc. And so it is kind of hard after not putting as much effort into those things because my brain was stuck on so many other things that were happening in my personal life where, well, this got put on the back burner. It's not like when I jump back in, it's to the same level at all. My shop updates haven't done well in a while, which is totally fine. And I know I can get to a point where they're better, but it's just hard to like get past the discouragement stage. And especially with things like analytics, like, oh god, on YouTube specifically, there's an app called YouTube Creator Studio where it kind of gives you demographics and more information and just like a bunch of information about your YouTube channel. And they give you a scoring on your most recent video compared to your last 10 videos in a ranking of like, okay, this video has been live for 30 minutes. These are how the statistics compare to your past 10 videos when they were also live for 30 minutes. And for a while there, every time I would post a new video, the statistics would always be, this video is ranking 10 out of 10 of your last 10 videos, saying it's doing the worst out of my last 10 videos based off of how much time has passed since I posted it. And that was heinously discouraging. It is hard to not look at those numbers and not look at those statistics when you're posting to YouTube because you want to see how well your video is doing. And I'm someone who, I'll still post videos even if they're not doing as well. I still am passionate about YouTube and making art and sharing my art and having some kind of platform where I can just simply not shut the hell up. It's really good for me. And even though I might not be doing it as frequently, and I know because I'm not doing it as frequently, algorithms and stuff won't be my biggest fan. It's just it's so weird, you know? So I am immensely appreciative of everyone who keeps watching my videos, and it's really nice getting comments of you guys saying you were thinking about me and then I posted a video. And there's video now. It's really nice. I wish I had more time and energy to do YouTube videos. I feel like I have more motivation for it now than I have in a while. The problem is the sun goes down here at like 3 p.m. and it's heinous because it's winter time, so I don't get a lot of daylight to actually record, and I can never really record through my work week, so I only have a couple days. It's just, it doesn't work well for me. But every now and then we'll get a video, and it's a lovely time. I definitely didn't mean to go off on a tangent on like statistics and algorithms and stuff like that, but that's just where my brain has been, I guess. I'm not really super into statistics and stuff like that, especially like when I post to Instagram. I don't care how many likes my pictures get. I really truly don't. It's just, I guess, more so the fear of not posting for an excessive amount of time and then just kind of getting your social media killed. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Wasn't planning on talking about them, but that's where we ended up. But long story short, I'm trying to make more art for myself. I am trying to make the things that I want to make as opposed to what I think other people want me to make, which is kind of a hard mindset to get out of, but I think I've been doing a good job, and it sure is a lot more fun to actually make things that you want to make. Back into these pens, as you can see, I've used them quite a bit now. I hope you guys have been able to see how well they do layering on top of other colors. Once it's dried, they're so good at laying down opaque, even the lighter colors on top of darker colors. These pens just worked super well. None of the nibs started giving out on me at all. I can't say how they're going to hold up long term, but they definitely feel like they have a lot of structure to them and they're not going to immediately fall apart and break down. I feel like that's an issue when it comes to less expensive any kind of markers, whether that be acrylic markers, alcohol markers. You just want to make sure the nib has enough durability to actually last through all the ink that's in the markers, and these ones definitely feel like they do. They are very vibrant colors, they are very beautiful colors, the metallics are gorgeous and lay down really nicely. And like I said, I really hope that Arrtx has a much larger selection of the simptap markers in the future, because I would love to see a larger color range. If you guys are interested in these markers or Arrtx at all, links will be in the description box below, so feel free to check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me ramble, and I will see you guys in the next one.